C4 Waterman, the pioneers in stand-up paddle surfing, proudly present the Quiksilver Edition Ku Ikaika Challenge. Well, part one really started things off right, and the boys are getting into the groove. Also here to celebrate with us out in the water, a couple humpback whales, giving us a little celebratory wave of the tail. Let's count them off together. That was 2. Here comes number 3. One more. Here we go. 4. One more. Come on, buddy. 5. Everybody out there in podcast land? 6. Everybody sitting at your desktop? 7.
That was pretty weak though.
That was a weak one, yeah.
It's like you could do with a Red Bull.
All right, well, let's kick things off with our Red Bull here. And off on the waves, we have Duane DeSoto.
Yeah, as the day moved on, the surfers started sitting really deep on the point. The judges were scoring it more, being that it was the point challenge. And it started to make for a really exciting afternoon of surfing. And as you can see, here's Nolan Keaulana. He's a young prodigy, another C4 rider, and Brian's nephew. He has an amazing backhand style with holding his paddle in front of him, whereas a lot of backhand surfers feel a little more comfortable holding it behind their body. Nolan, he's an exception to the rule on a real frothy one here.
Another Keaulana in the contest is hoping to use his experience as 3-time World Championship longboarder, Rusty Keaulana.
I don't know, I never really practiced, but I just hope the waves come big, because the bigger the better. Not too much people want to follow me. I'll be out there. You just see me with no leash and just charging.
And there he is, charging away. Rusty Keaulana, what a flamboyant surfer.
He sure is, and he's milking this wave for all it's worth. Hanging 5. We did not see a lot of that in the contest. It's more of a longboarding move.
Now he's got his paddle up above his head, trying to get some points. But I don't think that's an official move, and oh, I don't think that's an official move either.
Yeah, you couldn't score that one.
The sun started busting through those cloud lines. Here comes Sam Pye with some crystal blue water.
It really was a beautiful day. I mean, the conditions over there on the leeward coast it's just phenomenal, you know, and it was just lovely to be there with those kind of conditions holding out until mid-afternoon.
And maxing it out right now is Dave Parmenter in heat number 5. In this heat, we have a couple competitors up here from the trial round. Chuck Patterson going deep on this wave, moving on into the quarterfinals along with Dave Parmenter and Blaine Chambers. Blaine Chambers is an outstanding waterman in a relatively new sport that's steeped in tradition and has a lot of roots.
Yeah, it certainly does, and not just ties here in the island, but on a global scale. It's been a part of many different cultures. Someone that knows a lot about that is Dave Parmenter, who is a shaper and a well-known surfer and a local resident out here at Makaha. And let's see what he has to say about stand-up paddle surfing and its origins.
You know, the roots go way back, and you can look back, you know, even thousands of years and different cultures, people standing on various surf craft and paddling. Like I've seen pictures recently of people doing it on rafts in China and India on reed boats, in England on the punters, the gondolas in Venice, and of course in Waikiki guys have been doing it. But for this modern version of this is all Brian Keaulana. He's the one that put it all together and figured out that it could be more than just standing on a big tanker. And you know, my part in it was just basically being like the Tom Blake to his Duke Kahanamoku. I was just there to help build the boards, and I just followed his lead, and he laid down all the tracks, you know, like how to use the paddle, how to cut back with it. It got to be an advantage in certain kinds of waves like this out here. It gives you more leverage, you can see the sets better, and as the boards get smaller and more gunny, it actually in certain open face waves is superior to conventional surfing. You can go faster, you get more leverage, you can come screaming off the bottom and lean on your paddle. And so there's, you know, especially in offshore reefs and cloud breaks that like we have here in Hawaii, there's a lot of potential.
Moving quickly into round 1, heat number 7. Look at that wave coming in from the point. Aaron Napoleon picking this one up and moving himself on into the quarterfinals. He's having quite an impressive day.
And someone else that's stoked to make it into the quarterfinals from Heat 8 is Ikaika Kalama. He really dominated this heat.
Now let's get refueled and get back out in the water for the quarterfinals. Here comes heat number 1.
You can see that flag there on the beach that was just waving as the conditions were trying to hold in there for us. Here's Brian Keaulana riding high, trying to make it to that inside bowl. Yeah, and taking the second wave here in the same set is Kamu Alvai, backhand surfer, just working it here. And what you can see here is where on a regular surfboard you would have usually pulled off already. With the paddle and such a big board, you can see Kamu here. He's actually on hardly a wave at all, but he can see something coming down the line.
Look at him, he got his toes on the nose. Over the falls. And on that note, let's move on to heat 2 of the quarterfinals. Out in the water, here's Bonga Perkins. Also in the heat, Duane Keaulana taking a short walk to the nose, get a couple points, moving them on into the semifinals. Here comes the quarterfinals, heat number 3. Out in the water, it's Chuck Patterson. This guy's had a great day.
Yeah, Chuck's really relying on his fitness here. He's been surfing since the early morning in the trials, and he's made it all the way up in here to the quarters.
And I think this wave is going to move him into the semifinals. Now for the last quarter of the quarterfinals, it's heat number 4.
Aaron Napoleon was happy to squeak through in second place out of this heat and make it into the semi-finals.
In such a new sport, it's easy to make a name for yourself, and if you go up to the North Shore, you're going to see this guy, Ikaika Kalama. He charges big waves. We're talking like 12, 15-foot bombers over at Pipeline. Certainly carving himself out a niche in this sport. But if you really think about it, Liam, there are a lot of fathers of this new sport, and a couple of them are out there participating in the water today.
And someone who's witnessed the growth of stand-up paddle surfing is Makaha's own Dave Parmenter.
You know, I would say that if anybody was a founding father of it, it's Brian and you know, guys like that, and you know, Todd with the paddles, and people like Bonga Perkins that just jumped on it and you know, made this full arms race towards pushing the limits. And you know, Leleo, the first time we saw Leleo and Bonga surf, it was like seeing other guys on twin fins for the first time and realizing that, you know, how far you could push it. And you know, that was probably the catalyst of the whole thing, was those ability of all those guys coming together, like here at Makaha and Buffalo's Meet and the Makahiki, and pushing each other, and all of us kind of, you know, in unspoken terms agreeing that this was a whole new way of high performance surfing, and we look at it not as an extension of longboarding, but more of an extension of our shortboarding.
And this is just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Well, this is actually part 2 of a 3-part series, so don't miss part 3 coming up next of the Ku Ikaika Challenge, brought to you by Quiksilver Edition and C4 Waterman. C4Waterman.com for all your stand-up paddle surfing needs. I'm your host, Tommy Stokes, here with
Liam Wilmott. Thanks for having me, Tom.
All right.